The first half of the season was a display of sheer dominance from championship leader Juan Costa, with last week's win in Jerez being his third one in a row and his fourth of the season. And as the rest of the calendar unfolds, one question is on everyone's mind. Who can catch and dethrone Costa? We might get some hints at the answer today as we gear up for Round 7 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Mengozi, and joining me in the booth today is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he is using cameras provided by the one and only Dougie Beard. The championship marks its return on French soil with today's round taking place at the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Let's head over to our GSRC track guide to get you up to speed on this venue found deep in the French countryside.
Welcome to Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Located about 3 hours south of Paris, the track is most famous for its nearly 2 decades of hosting the French Grand Prix. But it has seen a variety of open-wheel series, sports cars, and motorcycles compete during its history. With about 4.5 kilometers in length, or just under 3 miles, its 17 turns wind back and forth between a series of hairpins and chicanes. Notably, a few of the turns are modeled after famous corners from other tracks. Estoril's long, sweeping opening to the lap provides a serious challenge to kick things off. Then, the flat-out run up to Adelaide tests your precision with braking by smacking you in the face with the slowest corner on the track. Later, the Nürburgring and Imola chicanes do little to slow the car, but forces you to thread the needle on your way towards 2 other tight hairpins. But there are other notable turns that are unique to the circuit. The Grand Courbe is the first you must tackle and is a swift double apexer that blends directly into Estoril. This means that any attempts at an overtake there are going to require some serious bravery. Château d'Eau will test your throttle control as the radius opens up and needs a good exit to make sure you aren't vulnerable on the run down to Lissay. The reputation of this track tells you to expect overtakes to be difficult, but a little aggression and some good braking should give you opportunities. All in all, after more than 60 years, French race fans have embraced this staple of motorsport in the country.
Well, Joey, this place might be considered by some as a glorified go-kart track, or sometimes, as I like to call it, one of the hottest contestants for the flattest track on Earth title, but it's going to pose no less of a challenge for the Lotus 79s out there.
Well, I like both of those references, and I think Joe Peak might argue with you because he's out at New Orleans at a flat track himself. But here we are in Magny-Cours, France right now. 17 turns, just under 2 3/4 miles in distance. And we were talking about a pre-race, a couple big opportunities here for passing, most noticeably down into Adelaide after that long straightaway, the biggest and best brake zone on the track to maybe outbrake your opponents. And then also into Château d'Eau there, another passing opportunity and another tricky component on this racetrack with these Lotus 79s, Thomas, is the power down. They don't get up and grip very well in these low speed corners. Going to have to be careful when you roll onto that gas today.
Yeah, exactly. Even though this track may suit the Lotus 79s on the medium and high-speed stuff, getting out of very tricky corners like Adelaide or even the Château d'Eau or the Complexe du Lycée is going to be very dicey. On the F1 standings, though, Juan Costa pretty much making a runaway at the championship. 4 out of 6 rounds win here for Juan Costa. 410 points out in a firm lead of over 100 points over Dylan Freckleton. But then you can see tons of duets battling for positions. Dylan Freckleton and Timothy Reed separated by only a couple points for second and third. Then Jack David Spickett and Pauli Kalevi-Partanen in 4th and 5th. Then Mimo Moreno, and Andreas Justa in 6th and 7th. And then that tightly knit group for 8th, 9th, and 10th of Jason Clapper, Luca Bracali, and Kimmo Viljakainen in 10th position. This is somewhat exciting behind the runaway championship leader in F1. But in F2, I guess, Joey, the title is going to be a bit more hotly contested in the second half.
It is. It's pretty close right now. Tim Britton leads the way right now over Patrick Samaran by only 13 points. Going to have to keep an eye on both of those two. Keith Herner just barely still in it here in 3rd place. But then, like you were saying, look at how close it really gets through the mid-pack here. Kurt Clapper, Shady Ahmad, Jason Carlo, Miguel Moreland, they're only separated by a few points each. And then Also, Thomas Silbernagel, Steven Jones, Antonio Alvarez. I would consider all of these drivers in it because, Thomas, we got to remember, we're only about halfway through this season.
Indeed, we are on the halfway mark with round 7 taking place today here at the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. 28 laps to run around this French circuit, making for a total of about 123 kilometers of racing or 76.5 miles. Open setup, so you got to bring the best dialed-in car you can here for this track. No spare car available, so if you bin it, you quit it. That's pretty much as simple as it gets. And this being, of course, an official series, a drive-through penalty will kick in for drivers collecting 17 incident points, with a disqualification being issued as soon as they reach 25 incident points collected. Now, moving back onto the action on the racetrack, with qualifying getting underway and actually having been underway for the best part of 3 minutes and 45 seconds, as we're currently seeing on track already Juan Costa going to work and posting a 124.886. Now, the last time these cars ran at the track, that was in the previous season, we saw Juan Costa getting a 124 flat. It was a .076, if I recall correctly, for pole time. I wonder if we're going to be seeing times diving that low in the last few minutes of qualifying right here.
We'll have to see, and I'm actually taking a look at the weather just to see if we're going to get those lap times, and actually looks pretty mild out on the racetrack, 65-degree ambient, but that track temperature up there at 90 degrees, I wouldn't call it hot, but I don't necessarily know that it's ideal for kind of track record times.
Yeah, indeed. We're currently more on a somewhat mild temperature, as you're probably, as you said a little bit earlier on, as Costa did post an improvement of a 24.713, currently on board with Cam Porter, currently sitting in P17 on the way to Grand Cours, getting a little bit squirrely off of the corner there, right into turn number 1 before getting the run into Estoril, trying to get the proper lineup. And it's always a tricky corner as well, because it has a somewhat varying degree of apexes before it finally opens into that long run down the Gulf and then onto the big braking zone down at Adelaide. Very easy to get the car a little bit lost out there. Very easy to go a little bit too deep as well, as we've seen last time out when these cars were around there. And that's how I believe Vilja-Kainen lost the position, or if it was another Finnish driver. I kind of get things mixed up every time we go through there. But through the Nürburgring complex down to 180 with Cam Porter, and yeah, the approach is also very important. As you can see, big moment trying to correct there before hooking the late apex into the exit of the 180 before heading to Imola.
Yeah, and through this quick little Imola chicane up to Chateau d'Eau, and just a few corners left here. You see how low speed this area is, and we're going to have to keep an eye on the competitors, and you see how long the corner exit is as well. They really have to be careful as they roll onto the throttle there. These cars, they make their downforce at medium and higher speed, so they're much happier at other areas of the racetrack.
Indeed, yeah, that's a whole first sector from the pit straight all the way to Adelaide is really the sweet spot. It's really the middle sector where the cars do feel very twitchy, very on edge. So coming back onto the throttle, like corner exits are going to be very touchy. But yeah, also like the chicanes, which are more medium speed at Nürburgring and Imola, are going to be a bit more of the happy place for the cars, as you did say, as we're currently going on board with Kurt Clapper, who's yet to put a time on board, and there is time running out. 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining, with most of the drivers having run their laps. Just a couple of names that are currently missing and currently still posting times, including Mr. Clapper right there, although this time is more likely of a banker time to try and get something onto the board, and the proper lap will be coming in next time, running in the beautifully bright orange Jägermeister livery, the number 18 car for the Midwest.
And, you know, I'm going to give you a little bit of insider knowledge here. So Kurt Clapper and Jason Clapper are definitely regulars here with us in some of these vintage series. And I'm curious, actually, Thomas, if Kurt puts down this lap time, because they're both known to start at the back and have fun working their way through as some of the biggest movers. So, yeah, very curious if this number 18 actually puts down this lap.
Could be actually interesting to note that. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a last the first challenge vibe. And no, he actually decides to park it at the exit of the chicane. And that's going to be concluded qualifying right now. And we're going to be already getting into the starting grid with Juan Costa posting a 124.713 to get pole position, a full 3/10 ahead of Jack David Spickett in row 1, row 2, Timothy Reed and Juho Raina. Then in row 3, Nathan Finnegan and Andreas Schuster. Row 4, Patrick Samaran and Adam Klatzka. And in row 5, Barry West and Pablo Suarez to complete the top 10.
You're in 11th place. We have Antonio Alvarez. Next to him in 12th, Keith Herner. Torsten Bale in 13th. Bjorn Ackerman 14th. Francisco Javier Lopez inside the top 15. Marc Jean Girard here in 16th. Cam Porter 17th. Tim Britton 18th. Gregory Woods and Andrew Eng rounding out the top 20.
Then on row 11, we find Michael Bandini and Kleber Mura, the last two men to have posted onto time onto the board. Then the rest are non-qualifiers that are just starting here. Mike Razimas, Jason Clapper in row 12, row 13, Samuel Reimann and Kurt Clapper. Then row 14, Brian C. Smith and Byron Long. And then all on his own on row 15, poor guy, Andre Lizzie is going to be starting in 29th position as the drivers form up onto the grid. We do miss quite a few cars, not least of which being the front row, meaning that we are of course still very much waiting in the wings for the start of this 28 lap race here around Magny-Cours.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned he's lonely back there with nobody beside him on the back row, but look at this full grid we're getting. Andre Lizzie's all the way back there stacked up against the chicane. It's gonna be a full house down this start.
It's going to be a full house indeed, and yeah, this start is going to be a little bit hairy as everybody tries to get the best run they can to try and get as close as possible, and especially try to get the best run out of Estoril already as of lap 1, because this is very much where we're going to be seeing the biggest moves trying to happen here down in turn 5 at Adelaide, as the cars are pretty much all set on the grid, just missing potentially P5 there, that being Nathan Finnegan still missing on his grid spot. He should be coming in any second now. There he is, popping up onto the screen as we are about to get underway here with the race at the Circuit de Nevers-Magny-Cours, round 7 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series season. Just waiting patiently in the front is Juanmi Costa in that red liveried Lotus. The revs rise, the lights are on, and for this time, we will go green in front. Perfect start for Juanmi Costa, who goes away pretty cleanly, but then we have a bit of a different moment turn of events here with Costa managing to move through pretty cleanly into Grande Courbe, then through Estoril. We see one of the cars going off into the background there. Meanwhile, Costa pretty much having a picture-perfect start on the run down to Gulf and into Adelaide. So far it is looking like Costa will be leading. I can't exactly tell who the second car is up front. I'm just going to let it take over, Joey.
Yeah, looks like Costa and then Timothy Reed, followed by Jack David Spickett is your top 3. Oh, no! I think that was Andreas Schuster and Patrick Samaran getting together in the Adelaide hairpin.
But Andreas Schuster, let me try to check in if it is actually him that did end up getting turned around and run down towards Adelaide. But yes, that is a very, very unfortunate series of events. We predicted that there would be some stuff going down at the Adelaide hairpin, but there was also plenty of moves further back with Kurt Clapper, for instance, trying to make some moves happen down in the Nürburgring chicane. But meanwhile, up front, it's still very much the control for Costa up front as he makes his way around the Chateau d'Eau now. Juanmi Costa, Timothy Reed, David Spickett, Jack David Spickett, Juho Rainer, and Nathan Finnegan, the top 5, pretty much unscathed, with the number 6 currently at the tail end of that leading group as they're about to complete lap number 1 of this race. They will follow as is Costa, Reed, Spickett, Rainer, Finnegan, then West, Alvarez, Herner, Camporta, then Rasimas to complete the top 10.
Yeah, and you're right. I think the top 5 here is a totally different story than the rest of the field. It was tightly packed, a lot of tire smoke, some cars going off track. But here we go. Nathan Finnegan looking at Juho Rainer heading into this Adelaide hairpin. Once again, he's going to go to the outside lane. Juho's going to go defensive on the brakes. Who's a little bit later? Looks like Juho's going to hold on to this position. But tell you what, Nathan Finnegan certainly looks like he's got some speed.
Yeah, he had a really, really solid run at the exit of Estoril, through Gulf and into the braking zone. Adelaide tries to go through the inside, actually just shows himself in the mirrors just before tucking back into the rear diffuser of Juho before the Nürburgring and the 180. So this will be a key battle to follow here for 4th position at the very least in these early stages of the race. In the meantime, yeah, the top 3 have very much spread out. And yeah, you said top 5 is very much a different story. Pretty much have checked out and just said, we are out of here. We just want to stay out of trouble as much as possible. And yeah, there was indeed trouble, as indeed Patrick Samaran and Andreas Schuster have collided a little bit further back at lap number 1. Meanwhile, Mike Razimas trying to make some work here on Camp Porter at the exit of Chateau d'Eau, but there's actually a bit of a gaggle of cars right behind Razimas with Suarez and Marc Jean-Girard in 12th position as well, all going down towards Lise. Maybe a move of Razimas down the inside of Lise. No, not quite. He decides to tuck back out. Meanwhile, Juan Costa sets in the fastest lap of the race already with a 126.190 as we enter lap number 3.
And as we enter lap number 3, Thomas, something that we got to remember here, I think right about now is when these tires are fully up to temperature. You noticed a huge difference in size between those front tires and back tires, and I think it actually catches a lot of these racers off guard in lap 1 and 2 with that tire warm-up.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, there's a lot more rubber to lay down on the road to actually get it up to temperature, isn't it? In the meantime, we see Razimas ducking down the inside, but he goes too deep on the run down to Adelaide, and he's going to be losing also P10 to Suarez in the meantime. So what could have been his brilliant move to P9 transformed into a disastrous move. He's going to try to retake P10, and he's going to be forcing Suarez to yield just before the Nürburgring. So damage limitation there, but missed opportunity there for Razimas. But thankfully, it's only lap 3 of the race, although you could see him getting a little bit squirrely. So make sure to not tap into those tires a little bit too much, as we're going to be seeing a replay here. I'm imagining this is a replay from the start here with the perspective of Timothy Reed a little bit further ahead, and then a pretty solid start for Juan Costa. And you can see Andreas Schuster. Oh, there's actually a spin in the background there as well at early as the start-finish straight.
That was Torsten Bale at the very start, and then there was actually a couple cars off in turns 1 and 2. But if we watch Andreas Schuster here, he's going to be going late on the brakes. Watch him and also the yellow car going into this Adelaide hairpin. Just, I think, too late on the brakes, not enough tire temperature, and it's actually Patrick Samaran from behind that gets into Andreas Schuster.
Yeah, Samaran actually had twice the contact, with one with Schuster and another one with another car a little bit further up ahead. And yeah, oh my god, that was a monster crash after that on the run down towards the Nürburgring for Andreas Schuster, who's well and truly out of this race as a result of that very, very nasty incident into lap 1. In the meantime, we're following along with Timothy Reed, trying to chase down the leader, but you can see the gap is already pretty astounding. After just 4 laps in, 2.3 seconds in favor of Juan Costa as we go back with currently 5th placed Nathan Finnegan in the number 6 car, currently still chasing down Juho Raina before the run down to Imola. Just shows himself into the right-hand mirror and decides to back out of it, trying to buy this time and wait for the perfect opportunity to strike here.
Well, and if we remember, just flash back a couple laps, Nathan Finnegan was making some moves on Juho Raina, so it is continuing out there, just like how Cam Porter continues to deal with competitors in his mirror. Mike Rasmus was able to sneak by, but now it's Pablo Suarez, Jason Clapper, and also Marc Jean-Girard lined up behind Cam.
Yeah, although Marc Jean-Girard is going to be a little bit further behind where he wants to be. He's 6/10 down on that little 3-pack for battling for top 10 right now with Cam Porter very much feeling under duress after a very, very sloppy exit from the chicane, and that's going to promote Suarez up into P10 and Clapper up into P11 as well. And actually, Clapper and Suarez going toe-to-toe on the run down to Grand Courbe. Someone's going to have to yield, and it's going to be Clapper around the outside of Suarez, trying to make it stick. You can see still Suarez swinging around the inside. That's going to end in tears, and it's going to be contact, and Jason Clapper lost everything in there, dropping back down to P13.
I'm curious if Jason has any damage on his car. You see him coming down the straightaway as the 12 of Cam Porter and Marc Jean-Girard are still side by side going through the Adelaide hairpin, trying to settle it out before they get to the next complex here. Looks like Cam's going to have the inside, but is Marc going to push the issue on the out? No, he is not. And you caught it. Jason Clapper, he was one of our biggest movers, already up 10 positions, but it was more before the contact.
Way more before the contact. Could have been promoted up into P9 eventually, as we're currently following along with Suarez, following that little battle up front between Jean-Girard and Porter. And he's actually rubbing his hands because he feels like that could be an easy top 10 spot here, because those two guys are going to slow each other down as they just bicker about for a place in the top 10. And Marc Jean-Girard could try to make some moves happen. He had a pretty decent run out of Adelaide, but was forced to yield to Cam Porter at the Nürburgring chicane a little bit earlier on. So yeah, Marc Jean-Girard not having it too shabby of a race start so far.
No.
Oh, very, very wide exit as well from Cam Porter. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're all good there. Cam's had his hands full, definitely, as we jump back up. I believe this is Mike Rasmus. Now, Mike has worked his way around Cam Porter a couple laps ago, and now he finds himself on the back of Barry West going through Estoril. And check this out. He's got a fantastic run going down the longest straightaway.
Yeah, he has a solid exit from Estoril and great run down through Gulf and out to the braking zone for Adelaide, both having roughly the same braking zone, going a bit deep there for Rasmus, and you can still see Barry West going side by side. Great exit as well from the Adelaide hairpin there from Rasmus, but he's going to be forced to yield just before Nürburgring. But yeah, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, ebbs and flows. And the thing that I noticed between those two is this vintage community, they have such good sportsmanship out here, Thomas. They're always trying to leave room for a competitor, especially when trying to make those moves.
Someone's been learning lesson from a certain Spaniard, saying all of the time you have to leave it a space. And yeah, it seems as though that rule has been really imprinted in the brain of the community right here, as we're currently following along with Jason Clapper, trying to chase down Cam Porter, who actually conceded 10th place to Marc Jean-Girard, who immediately built up a gap of 0.7 of a second, so not too shabby. He's got some speed under the right foot there, Jean-Girard, and Cam Porter now is going to have another set of hands full, even after the exit that was a little bit squarely from Nice last lap around, because yeah, Jason Clapper is out for revenge, and he's got the knife in between his teeth right now.
And, you know, I got a feel for Cam Porter just a little bit here as Jason Clapper gets a fantastic run out of the final turn. Going to take a look down the inside of Cam, gets the pass done. And I was going to say, I got to feel a little bit for Cam because it seems like he can't take a breath out there. When one car goes by, you think you might have a little bit of a breather, but the next one is just right in his mirror.
Yeah, indeed. Like, there is absolutely no time to actually catch a breath for poor old Cam Porter. In the meantime, up front, Juan Costa just controlling the race from the front. We're already a quarter of the way done through this race, lap 7 out of 28, and he's pulled an astounding 4-second lead over Timothy Reed. As meanwhile, we go back onto the focus of this battle between Barry West and Rasmus for a 7th position, going through the 180, going a little bit wide there for Barry West. Bit of a better exit, I think, from Rasmus. Is going to get maybe a bit of a run towards Imola. He's going to stick it toward the outside. Actually, there's a bit of a facilitation of the pass there from Barry West, potentially thinking I might be able to get him back on the next lap, maybe on the run down to Adelaide, if I get a good run through Estoril. So this is going to be a very important thing to watch out for. Maybe Barry West is plotting something.
Well, not only that, but I think he's a little nervous there. I think Mike Rasmus has shown a ton of pace. He's our current biggest mover, up 16 positions from a starting spot back there in 23rd. So I think that was a little bit more of Barry West saying, hey, you know what? We're early on in this race. There's no point holding you up. Let's let you go run your race. I'm going to run my pace.
That's good. That's a good point. No point in actually slowing each other down if that means effectively losing contact with the group that's up front. And already the gap is pretty astounding for Mike Rasmus, who has to actually catch up 6 seconds before going back to Antonio Alvarez. Meantime, we go back on board with Pablo Suarez, continuing to chase down Cam Porter. And yeah, we were saying the poor man can't catch a breath. Well, he's going to have a very, very hot Spanish driver on his heels, trying to go on the inside of the Adelaide hairpin. He makes it stick, gets the car stopped just in time. Cam Porter's forced to conceal on the outside of the Adelaide hairpin, and then behind we find Tim Britton in the beautiful Target Chip Ganassi livery, gaining a little bit of an eyes on this particular battle through the Nürburgring and trying to get himself a challenge into 180, maybe drawing around the outside. That's a little bit too ambitious, is it?
Yeah, and Cam looked a little bit yawed out there through that 180, but holds onto the car and got to give a little bit of a chuckle. I love when Tim Britton comes out here in this forbidden named series, Target-themed car. It's pretty amusing seeing it on the old Lotus 79.
I mean, to be fair, it really suits the car. I really like the way it pops. It pops, and yeah, the zingers really... I say the zingers, oh god, I'm going to pass like an uncultural guy, but yeah, I feel like it really suits the car really well, that particular livery. In the meantime, we also see Suarez getting a little bit wide there from the exit of Lycée before getting into the chicane, but it's still enough for him to remain ahead of Cam Porter by 0.4 of a second. In the meantime, further up front, hello, Mr. Finnegan getting a little bit hot on the heels of Juho Reina, and getting a little bit antsy there, trying to make the move stick into the Nürburgring. Someone's going to have to yield. Juho is going to go all over the track and shortcut the Nürburgring chicane. He's going to have to yield the place back, and he does so in one fell swoop, and with that, Nathan Finnegan up into P4.
Yeah, and if you remember, that battle has been going on since the drop of the green flag. As we jump back here, this is Pablo Suarez in the white and green, Cam Porter in the second place red car, and Tim Britton in that target third place red car, as Cam has not given up on this battle. Now, we mentioned he didn't have a chance to breathe, but I like what I'm seeing here. He's not playing defensive. He's going back after the car in front of him.
Yeah, he's trying to get the chase on because he knows that if he goes too defensive, he's going to end up dropping down like a rock in the standings. That's definitely not what you want. In the meantime, Juan Costa continuing to pound in his advantage at the front. In the meantime, Samuel Reimann going toe-to-toe with, it seems it is Gregory Woods, or is it Kurt Clapper, who's actually going side by side? It's Gregory Woods. He's currently having a battle with the number 24 car, Ampex livery. Just in front is the number 14 of Samuel Reimann. And yeah, both going side by side just before going into the 180 turn there.
And it's actually been a really good race for Samuel Reimann in that 14 car, up 9 positions. Although Kurt Clapper in front of him's a little bit of ways up the road. He himself is having a good race, but it's always about moving forward, accomplishing your goal each and every race.
Well, excuse me, but I just noticed in the corner of my eye that Kurt Clapper, we weren't mentioning about him, but commentator's curse, he unfortunately went off the track as early as turn number 1 on lap number 10. We might need to get a bit of a replay for that because that's a bit of an unfortunate... Oh, no, that was not actually Kurt Clapper. That was actually Tim Britton. Yeah, he was actually in a solid shot to actually run for 12th place and even 10th place, and unfortunately, that run goes down the gutter. Let's see how he actually did this. So here is Suarez, then Porter, then Britton. Now let's see how he did it. Oh, came in a little bit too high and lost the rear on the end speed to the Grand Courbe. So yeah, that is how you end up throwing away a challenge at the top 10 right there. Luckily, no damage done, no barriers being hit, just a bit of a dirty tire set, and then he's sent back out on his way.
And we've seen that a lot out of these cars because they make a lot of downforce, and when they give up that downforce, it tends to go away very rapidly, and all of a sudden, when you lose the grip on the car, you're definitely not going to stay on the racetrack.
Yeah, indeed. That downforce retention is very much on the edge for these cars, so it makes sense to have these cars having bite very, very hard there if once you get them pushed over the limit. In the meantime, on board with Juan Costa through the 180, solid exit, and it's neat and tidy, no correction through there, on the run down, barreling down towards the Imola chicane there, before having a little bit of a lift, dropping down 1 or 2 gears, flick through the right, then the left, and then heavy braking down towards Chateau, and then a 90-degree which then slowly opens up. You're so tempted to get onto the throttle that you end up having the back end kicking out, like Juan just had it there, but all in control. Then we go towards the final part of the track, going around the Lycée complex. First the 90, and then the last chicane before the pit straight, where it can be very easy to overshoot the entry and get your car in a little bit of a spot of bother handling speaking, and that's going to be a new fastest lap as well in this race for Juan Costa, a 1:25.604.
It's literally like watching fast forward out here with these cars on this track with the downforce levels that they make, and somebody like Juan Costa behind the wheel leading the way, just flawless out front right now. And I'm looking at the data. He's the only car turning lap times in the 1:25 second bracket.
Yeah, indeed. Everyone else is running into the 26s. The fastest outside of Juan Costa is Nathan Finnegan, who ran a best time of 1:26.075. In the meantime, we were following along with Barry West, and we're moving back up with the man we were talking about, speak of the devil, Nathan Finnegan, having a bit of a lonely race for now. And yeah, he's having a fair bit of time to catch up before finding the next car up ahead, which will be Jack David Spickett for third.
Well, and I think Nathan is kind of happy right now not having Juho in his mirrors. He got past him. We noticed Reina probably had a little bit of a slowdown penalty, and now they're both separated just that little bit. And you're right, it's quite a ways up the road to Jack David Spickett. And, you know, props to JDS out there, because he's usually one of these runners that's in the 5th place position or so, but he's solidly in third, and he's actually not too far behind Timothy Reed. I know he's about 2 seconds back there, but that's close enough that if Reed makes any mistakes, it'll be battle on.
Yeah, I feel like it's still a very respectable effort indeed from Jack David Spickett, and he's still very much in the hunt. Even though it is a bit more of a remote battle at this point, it is still looking like a very, very good position to be in for JDS at the moment as he enters Estoril, and then a little bit further up ahead we find Timothy Reed in the number 2 car, also trying to get a little bit of a trying to get some time back from Juan Costa, but there's just nobody to catch up the championship leader, is there?
No, there isn't, and this is kind of reminiscent of rounds past where Juan Mi's just a little bit on cruise control out there, got nobody to pay attention to in the mirror, and I think all he's got to do is look forward, pay attention to the lap traffic that you will run into here in this race, and just as we see it, we're only about halfway through, not even, and he's going to be working through some lapped cars already. Yeah,
we're already seeing one of the lapped cars getting around the circuit. That's the number 23 of Andrew Ng, about to get lapped. And just to mention, there have also been a few other cars that have been lapped already, such as Torsten Belle. I think it was Barry West that has been lapped. No, maybe there was just a little bit of a drop down, but no, indeed, Torsten Belle and Cleva Botaramura, who have already lost a couple laps to the leader. And we're already at the halfway point of this race, in a 7-second lead for Juan Costa over Timothy Reed, which you'll be able to see. There he is at the very, very edge of the screen, crossing the finish line. 7.4 seconds now, 7.5 seconds. There's just, the gap continues to building and build up and build up and build up. In the meantime, we'll go a little bit further back down the field with Francisco Javier Lopez in the number 25 car, having a bit of a battle with Michael Bandini.
Yeah, I think Francisco is just able to get around that number 28 car and kind of salvage a little bit of his race. He's one of these cars that's been up and down a little bit, but seems like Francisco's got it pointed the right direction and turning some very consistent laps right now.
Yeah, he's currently looking very, very consistent indeed. If I can actually try to find him again, 129.351 was this best lap that he actually ran, with Michael Bandini right now on board, trying to chase down Javier Lopez a little bit further up ahead. A tiny, I feel like it's a 1.5 second gap, give or take. I'm just referring visually because my timing screen decided to kind of go kaput for a little bit there, so we're just gonna go by eyes only. But yeah, the 28 also is currently running into the top 20 for 29 starters. This is not that bad of a going, me reckons.
No, it isn't, and I agree with you. You know, these gaps are actually pretty spread out for this racing. One of the only battles that's really close right now, we're following Michael Bandini in this number 28, trying to chase down Francisco Javier Lopez. But Francisco, remember, he just got by Michael that last lap, so I feel like there's a little bit of a gap stretching out between these competitors right now. And I'm looking throughout the field, and Thomas, it's about a few seconds between each competitor. I think this, what'd you call it, the flattest track on Earth? It's certainly showing its head.
Well, yeah, it kind of rears its ugly head indeed. Even though you can see a little bit of elevation, well, tiny, very, very tiny elevation changes here and there, but we're talking like maybe 1 or 2 meters tops. There is a reason why I kind of consider this as one of the contenders for flattest track on Earth, because it is essentially a big billiards table with a supersized go-kart being plunked onto it. That's pretty much how I can describe how Magny-Cours feels like to drive and to actually watch the races. In the meantime, yeah, Juan Costa continuing his really nice Sunday cruise out there. 14 to go here on this race in the Sunday Grand Prix series, and yeah, the gap just continues increasing. In the meantime, we're just going to get a little bit of a replay from something we might have missed. This is Pablo Suarez going a little bit wide around Lycée. What happened at the chicane? To dip on the grass. Oh, that's gonna hurt. Oh, and it hurts. He has phased with the wall, and that's an unfortunate race end for Pablo Suarez as well, who was having a pretty solid going.
He was having a pretty solid going, and I think Jack David Spickett as well. Look at this. This is another replay. I believe that was into the 180 complex after Nürburgring complex, and he loses that podium position that he was sitting in to Nathan Finnegan.
Yeah, Nathan Finnegan getting not really scoffing at that. He's like, oh, okay, I'll take that. Thank you very much. And yeah, Jack David Spickett now has it all to do to try and reclaim that prize that he relinquished, albeit a little bit, yeah, not really exactly what he wanted to do at the entry into 180. Tried to carry a little bit too much speed into 180 as we get a bit of another replay from someone else. This is actually Tim Britton going down Adelaide, as we're going to be seeing him under braking. So far, so good through Adelaide. Or did he get it a little bit squirrely? Yeah, got a little bit too hot on the gas. Got that stopped really quickly, though. Big props to Britton for having quick reactions in the number 10.
And remember, that is a moment that we talked about pre-race, is getting on the throttle. You know, you got to squeeze onto that throttle gently not to light up those back tires, as we see our leader navigating through some lap traffic. That was actually Michael Bandini. And if you noticed, Francisco Javier Lopez was off of the track, so that pass that he made just a few laps ago, now he relinquishes it back to Michael Bandini.
Yeah, that's not exactly the way you want to actually get out of the way for traffic. So here we go with Lopez. And yeah, he might have gotten the blue flag at some point, or did he stack it on his own? No, that looks like he did stack it on his own. He got a little bit too hot. Just coming into Shadow Doe, just over the exit. Tried to actually countersteer to counteract that balancing effect, but yeah, it was no use, and he lost a ton of time as a result of this. In the meantime, let's check back in with someone we've actually covered plenty already in the beginning of the race. Mike Razimas currently sitting in P7 and hunting down Antonio Alvarez up ahead. And yeah, only 0.6 of a second, so this could be the hottest battle on track right now.
It definitely is. I'm happy we're showing this, because Mike had a heck of a mountain to climb to catch Antonio Alvarez in front of him, and he's done it. He's climbed that mountain. He's turning lap times that are 3/4 of a second faster than Antonio in front of him, and I don't think it's going to happen down into the Adelaide hairpin this lap, but Mike Rassimus continues to be on a charge.
Yeah, I'm probably wagering that by the next lap, he'll be having a pretty solid run from Estoril through to Adelaide. He just needs to work that gap a tiny bit tinier compared to Alvarez. And yeah, so far so good for Rassimas. I feel like he could even try to challenge, well, as soon as he could challenge definitely for top 6, but top 5, he's going to have a bit of a mountain to climb as well, because Juho Raina is 15 seconds ahead of the pair.
Yeah, I feel that if Mike can get by Antonio here, it might be a lonely race from here on out. But no, look at him. He's up 16 positions. The only competitor that's done that as well is the car right behind him, Jason Clapper, who's 4 seconds back. He's up 16 as well. So I feel like if Mike Rassimus is able to get by Antonio Alvarez, he will be our biggest mover today.
Yeah, and his is looking a lot closer than it is. And you can see joint biggest mover, plus 16 positions for Jason Clapper and Mike Rassimas. We're back on board with Mike right now, going through the final chicane, and it's going very close. A bit of a squirrely exit from Alvarez, which is going to actually benefit for Rassimas, getting a little bit closer on the run down to Grand Coupe, but he's going to have to slightly back out of it, rolling on and off the throttle before moving into 1 and 2, backing out a little bit before Estoril. Now it's all about the exit from this very, very long right-hander. It looks as though Alvarez got a good exit. Now you can see actually Rassimas tucking back into the slipstream of Alvarez, getting closer and closer. Is he going to try to go for a dive down the inside of Adelaide? He's going to sure try to go for it. Goes on the brakes. They're staying side by side, and we're going a little bit too deep there. And actually, Rassimas trying to take avoided action to basically avoid running into the back of Alvarez. So, yeah, first strike, not quite enough to make it happen, as we're going to be watching a replay here of Cam Porter battling with the number 10. Number 10, that was actually Tim Britton. Cam Porter on the run down to Lycée. Oh, yeah, that's a big old send into Lycée, and that was way too hot for the speed the corner demands.
Yeah, just too hot. Lost the rear, over rotation, and around it went on Cam Porter. As we catch in, Mike Rassimus still pounding the back of Antonio Alvarez. And I've been watching this battle, and Antonio seems like his car's moving around a little bit more underneath him. A little bit of understeer here, a little bit of oversteer coming out on corner exit. So I really feel like if Mike is patient enough, this pass should come to him.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to be a bit more patient, though. There we go. You can see he had a bit of a slower exit there, Alvarez, so he's going to be even more vulnerable as he was on lap 1, and you can see him try to get the inside done on Grand Coupe, and he's going to have to yield there, Alvarez, so a nicely fought 6th position there for Rassimas. He's going to have quite a mountain to climb with less than 10 laps remaining, 10 to go, as you can see on the graphic there. He has about 16 seconds to make up to Juho Rainer. So I'm pretty sure we can say that P5 to P6 is somewhat set in stone for the time being. In the meantime, Juan Costa having passed the 10-second barrier in terms of the lead to second place and just continuing to have the track essentially roll right beneath the wheels, and the car feeling like it's pretty much on rails at this point, not really having any touch of oversteer whatsoever from what we've seen, as we are now heading into 9 to go.
Yeah, and he continues to turn these laps inside of the 125-second bracket. And I mean, to put that in perspective, the only other cars to go into the 125s today, you know, they're usually in qualifying, although I'm seeing a couple pop in some 125.9s right now as the fuel burns off. Thomas, this might be the cars getting lighter and picking up a little bit more pace here with only about 9 laps to go.
Yeah, indeed. Although I wonder if that's the case, I wonder how light Juan Costa's car was or how hooked up he is to the road, because even with the cars lightening up and people starting to post times to the 25.991 for Timothy Reed, for instance, or 0.921 for Nathan Finnegan, it's going to be still half a second to make up in terms of the best lap pace to actually catch up to Juan Costa, who continues to pretty much scythe his way through the field. In the meantime, we see Tim Britton continuing to run his race on his own in P14 and continuing to chase down Cam Porter for 13th position as well. Currently sitting 1 second down, if I am correct, half a second down. So yeah, still within touching distance of the number 12 car.
Yeah, Tim Britton is kind of making his way back up. Remember, he had that problem early on, but Cam Porter also had the problem early on. So these two a little bit like magnets out there on the racetrack as Tim goes wide going into Estoril here and has to tuck back in and gonna jump back. This is Jason Clapper, Thomas. Jason is another one of these big movers. He's trying to follow Mike Rasmus through the field, and he's got Antonio Alvarez, the familiar battle.
Yeah, another familiar battle, and yeah, I wonder if this is kind of like what Cam Porter experienced a little bit earlier on, where Alvarez may not really have that much of an opportunity to catch a breath, as he already has to fend off against someone else, with that being Jason Clapper, of course, trying to get as close as he can on the run down to Lisa. And you can see Alvarez is continuing to struggle with the exit of these corners there, although we do have a little bit of a wide moment there for Jason Clapper. Very, very slight, but that's enough to keep Alvarez ahead right now going into Magny-Cours.
Well, and Jason is always one of the best overtaking racers out here on the racetrack. I mentioned they always start from the back, himself and Kurt Clapper, and they have a ton of fun working their way through the field. They're going to go by a lapped car right here, but if you're looking for overtaking moves, Jason Clapper is definitely one to watch.
As we're going to go down towards Adelaide, a little bit too far back to make the move. He's going to be thinking about it another time, although we do see Alvarez going a little bit deep there, trying to carry a bit more speed around the outside of Adelaide, though he has lost a little bit of time and change. Is actually Clapper going to try to make a run through into the Nürburgring? No, it's going to be a little bit suicidal to go through that. In the meantime, Juan Costa, we're almost dipping into the 24s at this rate. The championship and race leader continuing to pile in the maps as we're currently going with the back end of the car from Alvarez, and you can see that harrowing side of Clapper continuing to chase him down through Imola.
Well,
we go a bit wide. We go a bit wide for Alvarez, and that's going to be the place to Clapper before Chateau d'Eau. Or can he actually resist him to the inside? He manages to make it stick. It's still side by side going down to Lise. This is going to be insanely close. And I feel like Alvarez is going to have to yield unless he tries to take advantage of the inside line on the run down towards Lise. No. Clapper makes it stick.
Just barely keeping it out of the gravel trap. Jason Clapper up. He saw that mistake out of Antonio Alvarez. Kind of the metaphorical door was open. Jason Clapper put his foot in it, pushed it all the way open, and went through for that 7th place position.
In the meantime, on board with Juan Costa again, dealing with lap traffic, although that doesn't seem to have slowed him down one tiny bit. This is actually Tim Britton that's about to get lapped by the race leader as well. He makes way on the right-hand side and lets Juan Costa through, but Costa 12 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, with now pretty much just 6 to go here at Magny-Cours, and just continuing to pile on the laps and continue to impress his rhythm. I wonder if it's going to be a new fastest lap there for Juan Costa. Not quite, but it's still very much a supreme display of dominance from the championship leader, posting in a pretty solid showing there.
And you see Cam Porter wiggle as he comes out of Estoril, trying to squeeze that power down, keep it on the racetrack. Juan Costa, our leader, sails right on by, heading down to the Adelaide hairpin down here. And for reference, everybody, okay, so Cam Porter, 13th place. Our leader, Juan Costa, has put 13th place and everybody behind a full lap down.
Man, that is insane when you think about it. That's a good, 16, 17 cars that are now at least one lap
over
behind
half
the
the
leader.
field.
Over half the field of entrance here today, which just shows how dominant Costa is at the moment here on this race. In the meantime, I'm trying to check from the gaps. It seems as though JDS, or Jack David Spickett, is trying to climb back up the mountain that he lost quite significantly and try to reclaim third place on Nathan Finnegan, though the gap is still tiny bit of a ways away. It was 1.5 seconds last time I checked, and it looks as though it has shrunk a teeny bit as we go out of 180.
That's a great catch there. You're right. Jack David Spickett, following that problem that he had earlier, now chasing down Nathan Finnegan in that number 6 car. And right now, he's finally closed it into within 1 second. And the reason why I mentioned that here in iRacing, that kind of 1 second barrier, that's when you finally start smelling that draft in front of you.
Yeah, this is pretty much when the slipstream is going to be coming into effect, and this is going to be very, very important for Spickett. He needs to keep it. This is kind of like the natural. I guess we can't really say DRS because there is no flappers, but it's very much the natural, organic DRS in a sense, where yeah, you can basically just get into the bubble of less turbulent air in front of the car in front of you to get extra speed as we go out of Estoril, going all 4 tires off of the track. Make sure to not pick up too many incident points because, from what I can tell, this is actually one of the very areas right at the exit of Estoril that is very prone to being watched for track limits.
Well, and we've seen cars go off. We've seen cars get time penalties, slowdown penalties. So you're right. You know, we haven't been watching the incident counts, but for some of these cars that have maybe made some contact or gone 4 wheels off, you know, maybe abused the 1Xs throughout the race, with 5 laps to go here, you might have to keep an eye on those incident limits.
Yeah, you have to be very, very worried because remember, 17 incident points means a drive-through and 25 means a disqualification. So you have to be a little bit careful of where you actually place your car, as we're currently still following along with Nathan Finnegan, currently managing to soak up the pressure quite nicely from Jack David Spickett, who continues to actually bridge the gap. It was down to it's down from 6 to 6/10 of a second from 1 second in the previous lap. And here we go. We've dipped into the 124s already. We're running into qualifying territory here with Juan Costa. A 124.918, the fastest lap of the race for the race and championship leader. That is insane.
And to put that one into perspective, folks, that 124.9 is faster than anyone else in the field qualified, and he's doing that out here. Oh, what is this, lap 25 on his tires? Old stuff.
Yeah, these tires are very heavily scrubbed, so I guess it could be put down to the car getting a little bit lighter as time goes on and as fuel gets burnt up, but still, posting that kind of times with a very, very old set of tires, I guess it's a testament to the driver, but also probably to the setup that he's found. He's probably found something that others haven't here around this track.
Oh, and I will give you, you're right. You know, as this car burns off, it definitely gets faster. The track is also rubbering in, so that helps with the grip out there with all of the cars putting the rubber on the racetrack. So Juan Costa does have a few things going for him in terms of putting down these fast flying laps, but it still doesn't take away from how impressive it is what he's doing out on the racetrack. Nobody is even in the 124s, not even in qualifying, except for that number 1 car.
Indeed. In the meantime, a bit further behind, the battle for third place continues to hot up, though the gaps have somewhat stabilized between Finnegan and Spickett, currently hovering around the half a second to 1 second mark, 7/10 as we head off Elise through the chicane and into the start-finish straight with 3 to go here for these two. And yeah, it's going to be like time is going to be running out for JDS. He's going to have to find something quick if he wants to reclaim third place, tries to get a bit of a different lineup coming into Estoril, but the exit is going to be a bit wide. Onto the curb he goes with the right-hand side tires. And so far, I mean, he manages to catch up a little bit, but it's not really enough to make a dent into Finnegan's advantage there.
No, it's not. And we mentioned these are open setups. Now, a lot of the community shares the setup to kind of give you a baseline, but it's still up to each driver to tweak and tune it as best as they see fit to suit their driving style. And that can also mean different wing angles, which equates to different top speeds. It just creates different ebbs and flows in the battles and where they happen on the racetrack.
Yeah, indeed. Everybody having a little bit of their, adding a little bit of their own secret sauce to try and make a car that's, one, comfortable for them, and two, feels competitive to them. This is going to be the main key aspect, trying to remain competitive in the field, which is really pretty much, it really separates the good drivers and good, I was going to say players, but no, those who can find good setups and those who can find really something great in the setup that can only maybe equate for a few hundredths of a second, but that few hundredths of a second is enough to give you an advantage against your fellow drivers, as we had a bit of a squirrely exit from the chicane and from JDS, which is going to be costing him plenty of time, and he's back into the second round of a second of a gap here compared to Nathan Finnegan, who has his third place safe for now, as we are currently continuing to wind down the laps. 2 to go here in Magny-Cours.
Yeah, and you called it perfectly. A little bit of a mistake out of Jack David Spickett. Going to have to climb back up to second place as jump up. This is our leader, Ronnie, just kind of on cruise control ever since the beginning, except his cruise control is on fast forward and doesn't have to worry about anything except keeping it on the racetrack.
I mean, we say cruise control, of course everything is relative. It has a relative meaning of cruise control depending on which driver you ask, but yeah, Costa just continuing to, impress his advantage. 20 seconds of an advantage as we get into the final lap of the race. I'm even lost for words. I was already lost for words already beginning. That's what you get for when you have someone with Asperger's syndrome in commentary, but it doesn't matter. Final lap coming in for the number 1 car, Juan Costa around Grande Courbe now for the final time here in this race, and another full house of points, potentially heading the way of the championship leader, going through Estoril. Neat and tidy exit through there, extend the track as much as you can, keeping it neat and tidy within the track limits as we head barreling down through Gulf and on the run down towards Adelaide. He's got a lap car in front of him. He does not really need to worry about it that much, as it's actually going to be moving aside. I feel like it is Barry West in the number 13 car that's going to be making way. There he is, and the Adelaide hairpin. Now moving on to the last run through the Nürburgring chicane. Flick it to the right, then to the left before breaking down heavily towards 180. A setup that is a little bit complicated for the corner. We've seen a few drivers, such as JDS, getting a little bit lost, carrying a bit too much speed, and having the rear lost out midway through 180. Now moving up through Imola chicane right now, going with Juan Costa. Flick it once again through the right, then the left, and then heavy braking towards Château. Starting off as a 90, then continues to open up further and further and further before you right back out on the throttle and barreling down towards the Lycée complex. First, the really fast left-hander before breaking down heavily before the 90 right, and the chicane, the right-left. And ladies and gentlemen, for the 5th time in 7 races, Juan Costa is the winner here at the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours. Timothy Reed, 20 seconds behind, is going to be looking to be locked in 2nd position, although we have a battle in our hands for 3rd position, maybe a little bit further back. You can see the number 2 of Timothy Reed getting close to the finish line here, right behind the lapped car of Cam Porter. 2nd place for Timothy Reed indeed. In the meantime, Finnegan versus Spickett, they're really nose to tail as we go to the line, but it's going to be advantage to Finnegan, who's going to be retaining that 3rd place, and JDS is going to have a little bit of a regret, I might think.
Yeah, Jack David Spickett relinquishes that fight and sees the frustration as we jump back. Antonio Alvarez coming through the chicane, 8th place for him, 9th place Barry West, and everybody from there on back, Thomas, a lap down.
Yeah, oh my god. Top 10, close to the top 10 is the only one drivers that are left on the lead lap. It just goes to show you how dominant Costa is this season as we're following along with the number 13 of Barry West. It wasn't Barry West who was forced to concede a lap, it was someone else. I think it was Heath Hanna, who I actually got confused with. But yes, we have Barry West on the run to 7th position here. And that's going to be concluding today's race, although the action is not over, and yeah, the broadcast is not over. We will be back in a few moments with post-race coverage and a few interviews coming right up. Stay with us.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, that was a bit of a Juan Costa show, if you couldn't tell from the race that we just had. And here are the race results after 28 laps here at the Circuit de Nevers-Magny-Cours in the French countryside. Juan Costa winning with a staggering 22-second lead over Timothy Reed in second place. Nathan Finnegan in third place after a bit of a silly mistake. I say silly mistake, but yeah, a bit of a hot moment for Jack David Spickett into 180, which forced him to concede third place. He will finish in P4. Juho Raina in fifth. Then Mike Razimas, one of our biggest movers actually, in sixth position. Jason Clapper, also one of our biggest movers, in seventh position. Then Antonio Alvarez in P8. Barry West in P9, the last of the cars on the lead lap. After that, we go into the lap cars with P10, Keith Herner.
And 11th place, we have Marc Jean Girard in the number 17 car. Just behind him, Kurt Clapper, another big mover, not the biggest, but plus 14 for Kurt up into that 12th place position. Cam Porter comes home 13th. Well documented there, all of the battles that he had today. Tim Britton as well in 14th place. Samuel Raymond comes home inside the top 15. Brian Smith here in 16th place. Gregory Wood 17th. Michael Bandini in 18th. Andrew Ang and Andre Lizzie rounding out the top 20.
And then towards the tail end of the field there, Torsten Bella in 21st, Francisco Javier Lopez in 22nd, then Byron Long in 23rd, and Kleber Botaro Mura in 24th. The last of the finishers. Then we have 5 retirements to actually report, that of Pablo Suarez, Adam Klatzka, Björn Ackermann, Andreas Schuster, and Patrick Samoran, who were unfortunately involved in that little bit of a kerfuffle in Adelaide on lap 1. Well, it seems like we do have a couple of interviews lining up, and first up is none other than, we do have more than a few interviews coming up, and first up is none other than the race winner and championship leader, Juan Costa.
Hello.
Juan Mi, congratulations on taking the win today. How did it feel inside the race car?
Oh, I'm sweating right now with all the traffic. It was a mess, messy traffic. Everybody did it perfectly anyways, but I had to be careful with everyone. Some of them were bothering each other, so just taking it easy with them.
Well, it seemed like that was the only thing that was going to make you sweat, because you left everybody in the dust behind you. Was there an area on the racetrack specifically where lapped cars were a trouble, or was it just all of them and having to work your way through?
Especially in the last sector before the last 2 corners. If they don't let you by before the second last corner, wait to the start-finish straight or the main straight, because that one last chicane is a nightmare.
Well, and you collect another win out here. It seems pretty unstoppable at this point to try to get in your way. You kind of seem like a big old boulder rolling down a mountain. And next up, looks like you guys are going back to the States. Road Atlanta. How do you feel going to that one?
Let's see how it goes with the big long straight. I guess it will be a little bit more of pack racing, more looking like Road America or something like that than these last 2 races.
Yeah, you're right. I do think that they should keep the cars packed together a little bit better with the long straights and the downforce levels that they have compared to here. And Juan, before I let you go, one more time, congratulations, and anybody you want to say hi to.
Thank you to all the people of the Lotus 79 community. Congrats to Nathan. It's his first podium. And to you guys, thank you.
Well, that was Juan Costa coming home with another checkered flag, winner, chicken dinner for that number 1 car. And I believe Thomas is standing by with Timothy Reed.
Indeed, we go from the number 1 car to the number 2 car. Second place in this race, Timothy Reed. Hello, Timothy. First of all, congratulations on your second place finish here. And can you talk us a little bit through the race here? Because it might have been looking a little bit lonely from your point of view.
Yeah, probably not as lonely as Juan Mi's race. Great job to him. He's pretty much untouchable. So yeah, just got ahead of Jack. He got a poor start at the beginning, and but we were pretty similar pace for a while. Then I think he had some trouble. Then yeah, it just turned into a pretty lonely race, just managing traffic. And just want to say thank you to all the lap traffic people out there. Everyone had their heads up, was aware of what was going on, and was they were very courteous. So thank you to all of them.
Traffic acting as a good Samaritan there. Now, I want to kind of ask you, going for a circuit as flat, I said in the booth that Magny-Cours is probably one of the flattest circuits on planet Earth. How do you actually feel going around that circuit with all that sequence and the kind of lack of elevation change for a thing?
Yeah, it's the one chicane thing that has some elevation change. That turn still gives me trouble.
Yeah, Imola.
Yeah, exactly. I always miss my turn-in point, but yeah, it's for a course that has a lot of greater than 90-degree turns and chicanes. It's actually quite fun. That's usually a recipe for a poor track, in my opinion. But I love this track. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I guess we do have not quite an advocate, but yes, someone a Magny-Cours enjoyer, which is actually more that can be said about Magny-Cours these days in the current world motorsport perspective. Yep. Now, of course, going ahead into next week. Next week, of course, we're going back to Brazenton, Georgia, and Michelin Raceway World Atlanta, going from a track that's very flat to somewhere where it's a little bit more of a roller coaster ride. What can you expect coming into this particular race weekend?
A lot of practice on turn 3. Uphill right-hander. But that Road Atlanta is just a great track. I really look forward to it.
That blind approach to Prix 3 and 4 is probably going to be very, very killer. Now, before I let you go, again, congratulations for second place. And if you want to have anyone to say hi to, the floor is yours.
I just want to say congratulations to Nathan on his first podium. Thanks to everyone in the community, and you guys do an excellent job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Timothy, and have a nice rest of the day. That is, of course, the interview done with Mr. Timothy Reed, P2 in this race. And up next, we have, it seems like, Mr. Barry West in the number 13.
Yeah, Barry, congratulations on the 9th place finish. Started 9th, came home 9th today. Oh, Barry, we got you over there? You got your mic on? Looks like we're having a few little issues here. Maybe we can drag Barry back up there. And I think I see Cam Porter available. Give Barry just a minute to get back. And Cam, how was the race through your eyes? I see you finished out there in 13th position. Had a few little issues today, but got it back going.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun race, at least in the opening laps. I made up a bunch of spots at the beginning thanks to some action, we'll say, that was happening in front of me, and I was up in the top 10, and I was all happy, and then I started getting eaten up by the fast guys that were catching back up to me after minor incidents. So, not much I can do about that. I'm not necessarily that fast in this car, but I came out here to have fun and had a fun race today.
Well, and we well documented what was going on, and I kind of had to feel for you, Cam, because it seemed like whenever you had a chance to catch your breath out there, there was another one lining up in your rearview mirror, and it just seemed like a very, very busy race today. Are you happy that you can finally relax now?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a hectic first half for sure, and then Kirk Clapper was catching up to me, and then I just made a silly mistake and had a half spin going into the second last corner.
Well,
which led him by, and then I was surprised that the fast guys caught me and let me actually. I guess those guys are on another level. So good job, me and Tim and Nathan for his first podium.
Yeah, there's a lot of congrats from Nathan coming in on his first podium. We're trying to get him into the commentary booth. I don't see him in here quite yet, but Cam, we talk about horses for courses, going to Road Atlanta next week. I feel like you've been on a pretty good run here recently in the various vintage series the last couple weeks. What do you feel like? Is there any momentum on your side going into Road Atlanta?
Difficult to say. No, you know what? I don't think so. I don't do a lot of practice here, so or in this series, and just want to come out, have some fun racing with some guys that are, on a similar pace to me, and just like what happened today. And hopefully, I can make less mistakes next time.
Awesome. Well, Cam, anybody you want to say hi to?
Just want to say congrats to the fast guys today, me and Tim and Nathan today again. Good job out there, guys, and we'll see you again next week.
Well, that was Cam Porter coming home in the 13th place position here today. And I think Barry West is going to be joining us here again. Thomas, you got Barry?
Okay, Barry, can you hear me?
I think so. This time okay?
Yeah, this time we are good. We can very much hear you. Now, P9 at the start, P9 at the finish. I guess not really any loss there, but can you talk us how the race went for you a little bit?
Yeah, well, sure. I had a little ding-dong with Mike Rasmus early on, and I was holding him up for a few laps, and Keith Herner is my main rival, so he was getting a bit closer. So after a couple of laps, I had to let Mike go, but it was a really good fight at the time. We always we
actually got a little bit of a glimpse of that fight especially going into Estoril. Now, I'm going to ask that maybe to a few other drivers, but what was actually going through your mind, trying to fend off, of course, the attack from Mike, going from the exit of Estoril down to Adelaide, the very, very big braking zone of the track?
Yeah, well, it's just keeping on the line and don't try and get on the power too early, because if you drift wide, you're toast down the straight then. And sometimes it's third and sometimes it's fourth. If you get it right, I was staying in fourth, but yeah, it's when you watch the fast guys, I was watching them in the week, and as you go over the first curb on the left-hand side, they were braking a lot later or just brushing the brake just to rotate the car. And that seemed to pay off. I mean, I seemed to be pulling away from Keith every lap there, and then I'd make a stupid mistake and he could catch up again. But yeah, and then Jason was coming from the back as usual, and I thought, well, there's no good holding him off. I might as well just let those go and see where we end up. But if it was near a few laps to go to the end of the race, I think me and Mike might have been a bit different. But yeah, seeing it was so early, I didn't want to waste the track position, so I let him go in the end. But yeah, it was an enjoyable race, and I've had minimal practice this week as well. So yeah, that's the thing. Don't do any practice, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's not bad going actually for a little practice run. And yeah, we were kind of I was kind of like figuring that you were maybe trying to run your own race and not maybe trying to hold up somebody else that was maybe a little bit faster. But now moving on to next week's race, Road Atlanta, we go from a very flat track. Let's see how things are, to very much elevation changes. How is that going to affect your approach coming into next weekend?
Well, just Road Atlanta. I mean, we've raced it so many times. It's second nature now, but yeah, it's that turn one and that blind turn three, is it? We go down the S's. Yeah, it's a great track and one of my favourites. So hopefully I'll do well there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. I think everybody in the field is going to be looking forward to racing at Road Atlanta next week. Now, if you want to say hi to somebody or thank anybody, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, I just congratulations, Jeremy. He's a world of his own, isn't he? I mean, 22 seconds. He's been practicing. I think I'm going to take the title off him this year, though, because I think I've done more races than he has up to now. So it's either him or me, and it looks like he's got to put a few more in the week to catch me now. So that's the tight line going for. Most races in the season.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for your time, Barry. And once again, well, P9, And yeah, congratulations, and yeah, have fun next week's race.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.
And that is going to be concluding this round of interviews for today at the very least. And yeah, Joey, next week is going to be a bit of a different kettle of fish, going from Magny-Cours, which we're currently seeing here, to Road Atlanta. This is going to be quite something.
Yeah, definitely a change of racetracks. However, I think it's going to be a similar story. Who's going to get up there and challenge Juan Costa up front?
Indeed, indeed. It's going to be pretty much more of the same, and that's pretty much a wrap-up for this broadcast. Thank you very much for the team for today, Joey, Ryan, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media links, website, and merchandise store listed on screen or linked in the description below. And do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you do not miss any moment of racing here on the Global SimRacing Channel. The Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series returns next week, as we mentioned, to Brazelton, Georgia, and Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. That will be on Sunday, May the 7th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have plenty of other broadcasts listed on the screen right now, which are currently appearing. Make sure to check those out and note down the dates on your calendar. Up next, you can see it on screen, is round 4 of the MX5 World Sim Series, live from Oran Park Raceway. That will be live at 4:40 p.m. Eastern. I've been Thomas Mengozzi, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on track.